The day you start winning, you stop being safe. Most people believe that success brings loyalty, that the harder you work, the more people respect you, that rising higher earns you more love. They are wrong. The disturbing truth that nobody warns you about is this. The moment you begin to outgrow the people around you, something ancient and dangerous awakens inside them. Something they won't name. Something they may not even consciously understand. And it will come dressed as concern, as advice, as friendship. Few people realize that your progress is, to certain minds, a silent accusation. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your growth exposes their stagnation. Your ambition makes their comfort feel like a failure. And the human ego, fragile, territorial, and deeply irrational, does not forgive those who make it feel small. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that a man who rises must expect to make enemies of those who benefited from the old order. But what he understood, and what most modern people miss entirely, is that your enemies won't always be strangers. They will be people who once smiled at you. It must be considered that there is nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle, than to initiate a new order of things. In this video, we will uncover 7 psychological reasons why your success creates enemies you never expected, and how to protect yourself from the hidden war most people never see coming. 1. The mirror effect. When your growth becomes their shame. Here is something that no one teaches you in school, in church, or in any self-help book you have ever read. When you improve yourself, you do not only change your life, you change the social equation around you. And for people who have quietly chosen comfort over growth, your transformation becomes a mirror they cannot look away from and cannot bear to face. Psychologists call this social comparison theory. Introduced by Leon Festinger in 1954, it describes our instinct to measure our worth against the people closest to us. Not celebrities, not strangers, the people in our immediate circle, the ones who knew us before. When you were struggling, you were safe to them. You confirmed their choices by existing beside them. But the moment you rise, the comparison shifts, and suddenly, the comfort they chose begins to feel like a cage they built for themselves. Your old friend who discouraged you from starting that business, he never hated the business. He hated what it said about him that he never started his own. The family member who mocks your new discipline doesn't fear your failure. They fear your success, because your success will prove that it was always possible. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He wrote about the shadow, the unconscious part of the psyche that holds everything a person refuses to become. When you embody what someone has suppressed in themselves, you become a living reminder of their shadow. And the shadow, Jung warned, does not respond with gratitude. It responds with projection, with anger, with subtle sabotage. You are not their enemy. You are their mirror. And some people would rather shatter the mirror than face the reflection. 2. The disruption of identity. You were never supposed to change. There is an unspoken agreement in every social group, a silent contract. It says, stay the same, not out of malice, but because human beings build their identity partly through the identities of those around them. Your relationships are not just connections, they are definitions. You are the funny one, the quiet one, the one who always struggles with money, the one who could never stick to anything. When you violate that contract by changing, by succeeding, by becoming someone different, you don't just change yourself. You disrupt the entire social architecture around you. You force other people to rewrite their own story. And that is something most people will resist with everything they have. Think about the person who loses 50 pounds. Suddenly, their family members begin pushing extra food at dinner. Friends suggest one cheat day won't hurt. What looks like care is actually desperation. If you change, the unspoken rules of the group no longer apply. The group identity collapses, and unconsciously, people around you will work to pull you back down. Not because they want you to fail, but because your failure confirms their worldview. This is what Machiavelli meant when he warned that the reformer makes enemies of all those who prospered under the old conditions. In your personal life, the old condition was your limitation. Some people built their entire relationship with you on the foundation of your weakness. Remove the weakness and you remove the foundation. Not everyone who says they want you to grow actually wants you to grow. Some people only wanted you to grow toward them, never past them. 3. Status threat. The ancient hierarchy no one admits. Beneath the polite surface of modern human interaction lives something primal and ancient. A hierarchy, a pecking order that every group, every office, every family circle quietly maintains. You may not see it, but sees you when you rise in status, financially, socially, intellectually, physically. You disturb that order. And the people whose status depended on being above you will feel it as a physical threat. Not metaphorically, literally. Neuroscience shows that a drop in perceived social status activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Status loss and a broken arm hurt neurologically in the same way. The colleague who begins undermining your work after your promotion. She is not jealous of your title. She is in pain. The friend who suddenly finds flaws in everything you do after you buy your first property. He is not petty. He is responding to something his brain has classified as a survival threat. Understanding this does not mean you excuse it. It means you stop taking it personally. It means you see it clearly for what it is, a biological response dressed in social clothing. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote constantly about the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. The reactions of insecure people to your success are not within your control, but your understanding of those reactions, that is entirely yours. Every time someone diminishes your win, they're not commenting on you. They're confessing their own silent war with inadequacy. For the generous enemy, beware the one who celebrates loudest. Here is the subtlest, most dangerous pattern of all. Not every person who resents your success will show it through silence or hostility. Some will celebrate you loudly. They will be the first to share your achievement, the first to praise your name in public, and privately, methodically, they will be working against you. Machiavelli devoted entire chapters to this figure. The advisor who flatters to stay close. The ally who keeps you in their orbit by becoming indispensable to your rise. Because the moment they are seen as the reason behind your success, they can later become the instrument of your fall. In modern workplaces, this looks like the mentor who takes credit. In relationships, it looks like the partner who encourages your ambition but resents every result. In families, it is the sibling who brags about you to strangers but subtly poisons your confidence in private conversations. Jung called this the persona trap, the mask that smiles while the shadow seethes. Most people never detect it because they're looking for enemies in hostile faces. But the most effective adversary wears the warmest smile. The protection is not paranoia. It is discernment. Watch not what people say, but what they do. Watch not their expressions when you succeed, but their behavior when you're deciding whether to try at all. The person who benefits from your potential but fears your achievement is more dangerous than any open enemy you will ever face. 5. Borrowed identity. They needed you small to feel big. Some relationships are built not on love, but on a power differential. There are people in your life who have, perhaps for years, defined themselves through your need for them. The friend who always had better advice. The parent who always knew best. The partner who was always the stable one. Their identity, their sense of worth and purpose, was quietly constructed on the scaffolding of your dependence. When you become capable, when you no longer need rescuing, when you start making your own decisions with confidence, you don't just liberate yourself. You dissolve their role, and with it, a piece of the self they had carefully built. Psychologist Alfred Adler called this the will to power expressed through relationships, the drive to feel superior by keeping others inferior. Not always consciously, not always cruelly, but reliably, consistently, and always at a cost to the one being kept down. You will know this dynamic by the way it feels when you succeed. It should feel like sharing a victory. If instead it feels like betrayal, if your good news is met with indifference, redirection, or subtle competition, the relationship was built on an architecture of your limitation. A person who truly loves you celebrates the version of you they helped build. A person who needed you small mourns it. 6. The guilt of ambition. Why the world punishes those who want more. There is a quiet cultural punishment reserved for those who dare to want more. Not from enemies, from ordinary people. People who have made peace with a smaller life, who have told themselves that wanting too much is dangerous, that ambition is arrogance, that contentment is virtue. And when they encounter someone who refuses to accept those limits, someone building, striving, relentlessly moving toward more, their peace is disturbed, because your ambition, to them, is a question they never wanted asked. What if I could have wanted more? Schopenhauer described the world as fundamentally driven by will, an insatiable force that moves through all living things. Most people suppress that will. They train themselves not to want, because wanting and not having is painful. Then you come along and your wanting is visible, unapologetic, and it reawakens something in them they have spent years burying. They will call you restless, ungrateful, obsessed. They will say you are missing the point of life. What they will never say, because they cannot say it, is that you make them feel the unbearable weight of the life they chose when they chose to stop trying. Your ambition is not an offense against the world. It is a reminder to people who stopped dreaming that it was still possible to begin. 7. Loyalty tested by altitude. Who remains at the top? There is a truth about altitude that mountain climbers know and that almost no one tells you about life. The higher you climb, the fewer people can breathe. Not every friendship is built to survive your success. Not every person in your circle has the emotional capacity, the self-belief, or the genuine love required to stand beside someone who has outgrown the shared struggle that once defined the relationship. And this is perhaps the most painful discovery of all, because it requires no villain, no betrayal in the classic sense. Just two people whose lives have moved in incompatible directions, and one of them resents the other for it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The loss of relationships to your growth is an outside event. The meaning you assign it, that is within your power. The people who remain after your rise, who are still there without agenda, without resentment, without the need to make your story about themselves. These are rare. And Machiavelli, for all his coldness, understood this. The prince who identifies his true allies at the summit is the one who survives. Not every departure is a betrayal. Some people were only meant to travel with you until the road became uncomfortably ambitious. Let them go with grace. Brain the psychology behind this. To truly understand why success generates enemies, you must understand one fundamental truth about the human ego. It cannot tolerate irrelevance. Every human being carries within them a deep, often unconscious need to matter, to be seen, to feel that their existence has weight in the social world around them. When someone in their close orbit rises, when success makes you more visible, more respected, more capable, the ego of those nearby conducts an automatic, involuntary calculation, a comparison, and comparisons almost always create losers. The psychological mechanism at work is called relative deprivation. It is not about what you have. It is about what you have relative to the people whose opinion of themselves depends, in part, on being equal to or above you. A man who earns $30,000 a year is not bothered by a billionaire on television, but he is deeply bothered by the neighbor who earns $60,000. Proximity amplifies the wound. Add to this the deep human terror of insignificance, what Irvin Yalom called one of the fundamental existential fears, and you begin to understand why your success can feel to another person like an existential threat rather than simply your good fortune. Jung would say that what people hate in you is often what they have most violently refused to develop in themselves. The shadow does not rest. It projects outward. It names your discipline as arrogance, your vision as delusion, your peace as coldness. Because to name it honestly would require facing the wound that created it. This is not to make you cynical. It is to make you clear-eyed. When you understand the psychology of envy, you stop internalizing it as truth. You see it as information, as a map of another person's unhealed interior. And maps, no matter how dark, can only harm you if you mistake them for mirrors. Shield how to respond. 1. Protect your silence. You do not owe anyone a detailed account of your plans, your progress, or your ambitions. Machiavelli understood that information is power. The less your adversaries know about what you are building, the less material they have for sabotage. Celebrate in private. Announce only what is already done. 2. Stop seeking validation from those who need you small. The approval of someone who benefits from your limitation is not approval. It is a leash. Every time you contort yourself to make an insecure person comfortable with your success, you shrink yourself on their behalf. The Stoics called this mistaking the opinion of others for your own judgment. Do not make this mistake. 3. Observe behavior, not words. In the words of the Stoics and Machiavelli alike, what matters is not what men say, but what they do when the test arrives. Pay close attention to who encourages you before results and who appears only after them. Watch who celebrates your victories publicly but questions your judgment privately. The gap between the two is the measure of their true character. 4. Let distance do the work for you. You do not always need a confrontation. You do not always need to cut someone off dramatically. Sometimes, the most powerful response to an enemy of your success is simple, deliberate distance. Reduce access. Reduce information. Reduce emotional investment. Let the relationship find its natural level, without explanation, without drama, without apology. 5. Stay anchored to your mission. Marcus Aurelius returned to this endlessly in his private journals. The only protection against the chaos of other people's opinions is an unwavering clarity about your own purpose. When you know why you're building what you are building, when that purpose lives in your bones rather than your mood, the hostility of small minds becomes background noise. You cannot be knocked off a path you are deeply committed to. Why this matters more than ever today. We live in the age of the open wound. Social media has taken the ancient, private drama of envy and made it a public performance. Every achievement is now broadcast. Every win is visible. And visibility in the attention economy is both currency and target. The more successful you appear online, the more people who have not yet confronted their own limitations will find you threatening. Comparison culture has accelerated a psychological crisis that previous generations never faced at this scale. The average person now performs 100 unconscious social comparisons per day against filtered images, curated success stories, and the highlight reels of people they have never met. The result is a civilization in a permanent state of quiet inadequacy. And you, with your real growth and real discipline, become the most dangerous mirror of all, one that cannot be scrolled past. Understanding emotional intelligence in this context is not optional. It is survival. The person who cannot read the silent dynamics of envy, status, and social comparison is the person who will be blindsided repeatedly by the people they trusted most. Emotional intelligence is not softness. It is not being nice. It is the capacity to see human behavior for what it actually is, beneath the performance, beneath the language, beneath the smile, and to respond not with reaction, but with strategy. Here is what you must carry with you from this moment forward. Your success is not the problem. In his private journals, the only protection against the chaos of other people's opinions is an unwavering clarity about your own purpose. When you know why you're building what you are building, when that purpose lives in your bones rather than your mood, the hostility of small minds becomes background noise. You cannot be knocked off a path you are deeply committed to. Why this matters more than ever today. We live in the age of the open wound. Social media has taken the ancient, private drama of envy and made it a public performance. Every achievement is now broadcast. Every win is visible. And visibility in the attention economy is both currency and target. The more successful you appear online, the more people who have not yet confronted their own limitations will find you threatening. Comparison culture has accelerated a psychological crisis that previous generations never faced at this scale. The average person now performs 100 unconscious social comparisons per day against filtered images, curated success stories, and the highlight reels of people they have never met. The result is a civilization in a permanent state of quiet inadequacy. And you, with your real growth and real discipline, become the most dangerous mirror of all, one that cannot be scrolled past. Understanding emotional intelligence in this context is not optional. It is survival. The person who cannot read the silent dynamics of envy, status, and social comparison is the person who will be blindsided repeatedly by the people they trusted most. Emotional intelligence is not softness. It is not being nice. It is the capacity to see human behavior for what it actually is, beneath the performance, beneath the language, beneath the smile, and to respond not with reaction, but with strategy. Here is what you must carry with you from this moment forward. Your success is not the problem.